In this video, we are going to talk about the art of the personal brand, how to build a personal brand from beginner to advanced. So I'm going to cover about 20 super critical concepts in here, from levels of a personal brand to funnels, pillars, testing, what makes sense for who, the difference between personal branding and creator, how to achieve your goals, content types to do it. I am super excited about this because over the last few years of building a personal brand for the first time, I have messed up constantly. I've done the wrong things. I've launched stuff and not followed up. I've blown money. I've gotten into bad content creation habits. But every single time I picked myself up and got right. And right now I've been on this trajectory, having made content just a little bit under 3 years, coming up on 1 million followers, and headed to be one of the bigger personal brands in the space, if not in general. And I've had to actually think really critically about this, because I've done workshops at companies who want their teams to develop personal brands. I've trained now thousands of people in Cut 30 to make content for the first time. So I've had to distill so much of this down into actionable frameworks, and that's really where the power is. And it's also something that I'm passionate about, especially for a younger generation of people to stand out, and especially for creatives, marketers, people who have that special something. You actually really get to shine when you put yourself out there. There's a lot of ways to do it. People think about it the wrong way, and we're gonna break it all down here. Let's lock in. So first, it's funny, you will see clickbait on here and on social media that's like, personal brands are dead. And what I think they really are meant to say is that being an influencer sucks. And being a creator is not for everybody. But an interesting thing is promoting yourself is permanent. It's settled in. It's part of now our cultural fabric, that we exist in an era of like AI resume generation and review. We're remote. There's less mentorship. There's gaps in training. And you can see an inevitability when the workforce just basically looks like little blips on an AI radar. And personal brand is a way to steer yourself out of that. And I like to always use this chart when I talk about this. Where basically we used to have these traditional lives. You have a job, and then for many Americans, usually there's a side hustle, right? But now with the creator journey for any creative, that's become much simpler because basically you have so many ways to easily make money that don't involve having a whole separate business. The actual networks will pay you to post on them. You can do affiliate content and stuff like TikTok Shop. But also what I don't even mention in this chart is that you get basically more enterprise value with a personal brand, especially when you're recognized in your niche. Companies begin to pay a premium for those people over time. And that doesn't happen right away. But I say all this to say personal brand is permanent. We are never going back to a previous era. You talk to a lot of people that were in the workforce during COVID, and they just want everything to go back simpler. You keep having this thought of like, when are things going to be like normal again, or easy or simple? And the answer is they're not. They grow increasingly complicated. Things are increasingly noisy. One of the biggest things that holds people back from wanting to have a personal brand is it feels overwhelmed to be like, in addition to everything else I do, now I got to create content. And to me, that really feels like a channeling issue. You're overwhelmed because you're overwhelmed by sensationalist news and your phone. They are occupying so much of your brain power. You're going to be so much less overwhelmed by creating something you're excited about or promoting yourself in a way that then leads to rewards for you down the line. I cannot describe how big that shift is in what you do with some of your time. But one other critical aspect of modern culture to think about here is what I call the flattening of content, or the views are down theorem. If you see social media content, you create it all. Now you see all this stuff online, the views are down, I can't get views anymore. And one of the big reasons for this is there's more creators than ever, more personal brands than ever, more content pumping out into the world. Also with that comes algorithms that are getting way better at giving people content super relevant to their interests and needs. They do this by geography, they do it by interest, they do it by overlapping interest. If you are in Tulsa and you are into anime and real estate, you are getting an algorithm on multiple social networks, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, that is built around that. It also knows your political beliefs. It probably knows what you're attracted to. Terrifying on one aspect, but on the other aspect, there's simply less of a market for everything. If you make big universal content, you're competing against way more niche stuff that may get less views but is more interesting to the viewer. But that is the opportunity for small personal brands, for people that are just trying to achieve something, make it easier for them in their lives, is you can actually speak to a niche that's 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and achieve the objectives you want to achieve without having to create this huge thing. So I actually really feel like the sweet spot for most personal brands and people that are making content is really in this like 3 to 10,000 views a video range, where if you're doing more than that, it's kind of going outside of what you're trying to achieve. And if you can consistently do that, you have a solid skill and you're able to reach people that are genuinely interested and invested in moving your personal brand forward. And this is a good way to start talking about the levels of personal brand. There are 4 levels starting with 0, to make it extra complicated. And it starts with the difference between a personal brand and a creator. The goal of establishing a personal brand is different than the goal of trying to be employed as a creator. I want to distinctly do that because I've made a lot of videos about becoming a creator. But a personal brand, your goal is to help you in your career or in future things that you want to do, have a platform with which that will help. And everyone who's online intrinsically has a level of personal brand. So I'm going to call that level 0. But you can go through first 2 levels of this and make some content, but not truly be a creator. You can casually make content. And the goal of this is not necessarily to make you money. It is to, again, build the brand, the perception others have of you when you're not in the room. Easiest way to define the brand. And then level 1, this is the level of personal brand I feel almost everyone should aspire to, especially if you're in the business world at all. Is a personal brand is an extension of what you do, but does not define you. You make content, and you put things out there in the universe on whatever networks you choose that helps tell your story, show people what you do, why you're special, whether that's at work or personal. But again, it doesn't define you. You are not a creator. It's not a primary thing you aspire to. You're not trying to live off it. You don't think about it every single day. It is just a thing that is in the habit of what you do. That is level 1. And there are 5 archetypes I like to talk about in level 1. The first is the carousel dumper. This is someone who basically posts mostly on Instagram and says, I'm going to post carousels, great format for this, of a bunch of the things that are happening in my life in rapid succession. So I'll have 10 photos of a thing I worked on at work, or multiple things that happened over the summer, whatever it is. You can use that to begin to showcase to people what it is that's happening with you. And you'll notice that some people will run this kind of to the moon. You'll notice that there's like creative directors with 70,000 followers who kind of just do this, but the stuff is cool enough that it's actually beginning to got them some serious traction. Do not underestimate this. Second is the documentarian. You are using social media to document your life milestones, your brand and career milestones, and the things that you are doing regularly at work. Hey, I got this raise. Hey, I worked on this project. Again, you're not trying to be a creator. Maybe you're not doing this a ton, but you do it occasionally. You're posting on LinkedIn. You're celebrating those milestones, whatever it is. The third is the hobbyist. You have something you're passionate and you care about. Maybe you are a salesperson at a roofing company, but you're also a woodworker and you make content about the woodworking and you begin to have some depth in your personality so that people that know you and you get closer on and know you for this other thing. This gets really powerful when there's alignment. Hey, you're a realtor, but you're really into interior design. And so you're bringing that hobby into real life. You're showcasing mood boards. You're showing off stuff you like. You're doing some response content about that. You bring that hobby that's tangential to what you do into the social media that's around you. This is an excellent way to do that. You're just passionate about one aspect of that or a cross-section subculture of that. It can bleed over. If you're a cinematographer and you love cars and you are making cinematography, solid, really good looking, real content about the cars in the free time, that's gonna be a massive benefit to you inside your career to show off that you're good at content on social media, develop a portfolio that's outside of your work without having anyone question that this guy's really into cars. Then we have the casual poster, people that just document stuff in their life, especially if you're extroverted, you like to yap to the camera, or if you're funny, you like to do skits, anything like that. You are just posting, not high production, not super thought through, but you are putting content on the internet. A huge chunk of Gen Z is just like this. They make some skits with their friends, they post some content, they're yapping about whatever it is they bought. That is a thing, it is an archetype, it is super useful to begin building a personal brand. Harder for older generations who just don't think like this. And then the journeyman or woman. That is, you're trying to accomplish a specific thing in documenting and learning to draw in 60 days. You're basically saying, I'm covering X in X time frame, and I'm doing that online. You basically have gone from 0 to 1, but you have an actual plan of what you're doing for it, because having a personal brand like this helps you understand content, how it goes out in the world. This is a huge thing to think about. Everything we do now, and almost every business comes back to content. What's going on the internet? What's going in the ads? This is inherently now how we consume. This is a cultural thing that we participate in that you then understand more of by having this brand. It makes you intrinsically more valuable and makes more people aware of you. Most people who establish a personal brand don't need to go beyond this. Then we get to level 2, where having a personal brand is part of your life and begins to define you online and offline. You're known for it. This is the spot where you begin to develop a brand, you make some money off of it, maybe you are a creator, you're being known for it, you're doing speaking gigs, whatever it is. And you begin to think, maybe I should be doing this full time. This is the hardest thing you reach, because what I found is a lot of creators don't actually want to do this full time. It is an amazing compliment. And what will happen here traditionally is the first job or place this happens at, it gets kind of awkward. People are discovering it wasn't there when they started. They're like, wait, this person does this now. It's weird. The second scenario you get in, where people knew about it from the start, is probably part of the reason they brought you in, is amazing. Because you get to have these two things that exist in symbiosis, and there's value for everybody. Then you get to level 3, when it's larger than life. You build a personal brand that grows beyond just what you post to your initial audience. Other people talk about it, that influences trends, it becomes something big. This is the Gary V's and all the kind of gurus you may know. People that are really respected within their niche or people refer to all the time. Used to be reserved for authors, right? And people that like had this more traditional clout, the Seth Godin, Tim Ferriss, Sheryl Sandberg like era of personal brand. Now that is people that make stuff on the internet. And you may aspire to that. We're going to talk all the way through to that in this video, but I do recommend for most people, just stick to number 1. But before you even decide where you want to go. Think about what you want. You can always change this later, but think about you, what your priorities are, where you want to go with this. And then I want you to know that there is no competition. There's a really smart kid, Breyer, who did Cut 30. I saw his videos on TikTok. He made a video. It's actually, I think this is someone else's idea, but it's a video about how there's no competition. And there's a model out there for this. I think this is a really important thing to think about. And something that has become really apparent to me in my personal brand journey that I didn't really believe at the beginning. So first, if you have 100 people that say they all want to start a personal brand in your niche, whatever that is, hairdresser, sales funnel marketing, whatever it is. 80 of those people that say they want to do that will never even start. They will not break 0 to 1. So if you break 0 to 1, you say you're going to do it, you make those first pieces of content, you establish a plan, beating 80% of the people that said they wanted to do it. Now you're already over probably to the 1% of everybody. That's a crazy thing to think about. Then 10 more of them are going to quit early. They come in, they'll do something like that 3-day challenge we did, and they'll never think about it again. Now you're down to just 10 of 100. 5 of them are going to get shiny object syndrome. They're going to say, actually, you know what? I want to do crypto. That's going to lead you down to there's now 95 of those 100 people are gone. If you have been decided to do this and you do it for more than like 60 days. Of the 5 of you left, 2 of them are just going to be unlucky. Some shit's going to happen in their life. Stuff's not going to quite work out. They're going to break an arm, whatever it is. Life happens. Now you're down to 3. So 100 people that started who want to do that same thing as you. 3 are left and you are one of them. Those are going to be the only people in your niche creating content. Now, obviously, if there's tens and tens and tens of thousands of people in your niche that aspire to do it, that'll be a bigger pool. But in most likelihoods, there aren't. And I think about that on YouTube. I look around on YouTube constantly, like, why are there not more marketing creators that I want to watch, like marketing and branding? There's a handful, and they're like my friends for the most part. And some big ones have been around forever. But of like this in the last like couple years, there's basically no one who's above like 50K besides like Kane Calloway, who's a friend of mine. But even then, he's very focused in on like storytelling, social media. But there's really like very few people being like, let's talk about campaigns. Let's talk about why this works. Let's do these thorough tutorials. Let's really approach this like a YouTuber, which is just shocking to me being it's one of the biggest industries in the world. There's kind of an infinite demand of those people who will consume it on YouTube. There's money to be made off of it and people just don't do it. Now there's a whole pool. There's 100 people who do this on Instagram. They actually make marketing content. Of those 100 people, all 100 of them have been like, should I do YouTube? I want to do YouTube. That's been unanimous. And of that, I can literally call out the 10 to 20 that have tried and the 10 that quit too early. Most of my friends tried and made like 2 videos. I've got shiny object syndrome. And there's 3 left. And of that, it's like literally it's Kane and myself and Mark now with open residency, right? It's a small group. And I say all that to say, there is no competition. You, no matter who you are, can stand out. So something you've heard me talking about is that the marketing funnel is not flowing the same. Things are different than a year ago. 60% of searches now end without a click. Buyers do research with AI and attention is scattered. Moving people through your brand from awareness to consideration to decision used to be a funnel, but now it's more of a loop that's always evolving. And marketers have to think like this. That's why I want to share this new framework from Hubspot, who I'm partnering with on this video, whose products I've used for more than a decade. They understand this change and created Loop Marketing, a growth playbook for the AI era. And they actually put together some free, super useful marketing prompts you can put inside your favorite LLM. They're across the 4 stages of the new loop. And I'm going to break that down with some examples. So the first stage of this loop is Express. This helps you build a brand guidebook and apply it. The prompts in this stage tackle things from brand differentiation analysis, customer journey mapping, archetype identification. Then Tailor. This helps enrich data about your customer and then create custom experiences that are better designed for the modern internet, special landing pages, emails, things like that. Then Amplify to better figure out how to reach your customers with prompts like strategic partner identification, even regional marketing strategy analysis. And then the 4th stage is Evolve to design testing strategies and interpret analytics your brand has. This is about having 4 stages that all work together. And with Loop Marketing, you're not just getting random prompts, you're getting a complete marketing system. It's really next level. It builds on itself all the way from brand foundation through to optimization. So these are all fully built prompts you can use inside your favorite LLM, and they form a super thorough basis for any marketer to work to become a 10x marketer who can drive real impact in the AI era. Stay in the loop with these prompts from Hubspot at the link below in the description, and thanks so much to them for partnering on this video. So your toolkit is content formats. What do you actually make? Video, design carousels, text. Those are kind of your options to put stuff out there on the internet. Video, you have green screen, the kind of content that I've made on Instagram and TikTok. Green screen is an amazing format. I've actually tested more produced content, all this other stuff versus green screen. It's really hard to beat because it shows a visual behind you that you are talking over. You can do it in CapCut, you can do it in the Edits app, you can do it natively in Instagram or on TikTok. It's easy, but you get a visual you get to watch while someone's kind of talking over it, and you can read the text. So no matter what someone wants to do, they can follow along with your story. It's an amazing vehicle to be able to talk about things that are happening. And there's also just yapping, which is literally just talking to the camera. Works best on TikTok, works a little bit everywhere, but an option. But if you don't want to talk at all, you have what I call quick hits, which is just a video with a couple clips that you actually place some text over. Amazing, super underrated format, huge TAM. If you are at all clever or useful, you can use this to your maximum advantage. And a lot of personal brands are just built off this. And you have vlogs, slightly longer versions of these, oftentimes with a voiceover, where you're actually telling real stories. Making real video content there. And you have carousels. You have the carousel dump I talked about, where you're just kind of putting casual stuff out there. It's not really thought through, or maybe it's thought through, but it's not like designed. Then you have produced carousels, designed carousels. This is easier than ever with like Creative Market and templates and all that stuff. You can make good looking stuff for this. And having design is like a super underrated skill set. Putting that together and being able to share your opinion on things is like a huge leg up. And if you look at a lot of text content you put on LinkedIn, content you put on Twitter is a good place to start. Text just does not travel the same way, especially with AI. It's super easily replicable. Most people don't even believe you wrote it yourself. But you can take the format for that, which is basically like, what happened in the news? What is this trend I see? I did a thing, or this bookmark or thing I found interesting. Establish that subject, and then a response. I believe it is good or bad, or here's how I would do X or Y about it. That's a great way to begin contributing to your niche. This earnings report happened inside consumer packaged goods. I work in there. Here's what I think it means for our industry. Here's what I learned from it. But you then put that into a carousel format, something more designed, all of a sudden that travels way farther. Then you go do a video about it, you're building in a whole different way. It's a great way to think about that. But those are kind of the formats you have to play with to establish this on the internet. But to start, we want to think about this thing called content market fit. There's two concepts within it: niche maxing and content TAM, or content total available market. So niche maxing is basically like, if you have a super specific interest, again, you can get in front of the people with that same super specific interest. It may not get huge views, but it gets views that matter to you. Again, 200 views, 1,000 views that matter to you in your career is way different than if you're trying to be a creator. A handful of those can just be the people that will eventually hire you one day, or they're noticing what you're doing in your journey and taking more of that in. You're beginning to build that network out. So I would say it's okay to niche max. And I would basically look at what are the niches you are interested in, and then look at their TAM, their total available market. How interested are people in it? For instance, me. I love aesthetics, interesting looking stuff, the different aesthetics of everything. No matter what it is, I like it. Maximalism, brutalism, yassified design, whatever it is. I'm intrigued, I'm interested, I want to talk about it, I want to give opinions on it, I love it. I also love the math of money. I love cost models. I love what things actually cost to produce and margins and building that out and ROAS and the whole side of like marketing that involves the number. If I talked about the math of money, I would have a pretty low content TAM. You see, I do not talk about that very frequently, but I could have a channel on here that had 2,000 subscribers that got 1,000 views a video, and they were all ultra high value people who also care about the math of money. Ultra high value niche. Small TAM. And that would be completely okay if my goal was to make sure I was aware enough to get hired in the future. But now I'm in the middle. Aesthetic branding, aesthetics in general have a pretty good TAM, but they're not huge. Not the same TAM as I want to make good, better social media content, or whatever that looks like. It's a good middle of funnel. Works out well for me. I love to talk about it. I would be kind of listing out what are those things you are excited about and want to talk about, both personal and business, and then look at what is that TAM, and does that TAM help you achieve your goal? Goal for most people with a personal brand, I want to make it easier for myself to get hired and get paid more in the future in work. Second goal, I want to build distribution to be able to do side projects and freelance. Third goal, and honestly more underrated, I want to attract a partner. Guys and girls, this is a thing that is very common. This also works, but begin thinking about what is the reason you're doing this, and there's also some overlap between them. What are the things I'm into I could showcase, and then what do I do from the formats above to actually get there? And then a reminder to reach your TAM, all those people. No one gives a shit about you, they give a shit about them. How do you entertain them? How do you give them value? So it all comes back to every piece of content you identify. Am I entertaining someone, or am I giving them value? So if you're just talking about you, it's going to have a smaller TAM. People might notice it. You might still be able to achieve your objective, but it's not going to go as far. It's just worth knowing that in the back of your head. And so the system that I use always to build this out, and the system we teach in Cut 30 is called this pillar system, where you develop 4 types of content and approaches and you scale that over time. That's for creators. You don't need to think like that in your initial stages if you're just thinking about personal brand. But if you want to take it to the next level, this is how you actually approach it. You build out 4 content types and styles you are doing. This is what I do. Every single month, I have 4 different things I'm thinking about. They are my primary things. I talk about marketing ideas, or I'm going to talk about product development for X or Y. I'm going to do creative travel content, 4 pillars. At the end of every month, I actually track the metrics on how did those do? What saves did they get? Views did they get? Shares did they get? Is it up or is it down? Is it this pillar losing interest, or am I not doing good enough? And I make a plan to say, I'm going to remove this pillar, replace it with another, or I'm going to improve it this way or that way, as the basics of creative strategy for a personal brand in like 30 seconds. Rewind that like twice. Pillars is a really key concept. The second key concept is positioning. You have to decide if you want to be bigger than just, I'm going to talk a bit about me and that level 1 personal brand, how you position. So some things out there. Counter positioning. I'm again going to call out Young Breyer, who makes TikToks about this kind of stuff. He makes TikToks about personal brand content, like monetizing it and stuff like that. And he counter positioned himself. He has a super lo-fi. He's in like a basement. His positioning is like, I just had my first $40,000 month. So he's new to this, and he's super young and fresh and coming out from an objective position, which counter positions against, I'm Alex Hormozi. I'm all these really established people with all this production. I made all this money. That's why you trust me, by having a really relatable take. That's position type 1, a counter position, versus you see all the things that are happening in a niche you want to establish a personal brand in, and you say, how do I flip the script on that? How do I appeal to a different set of people than what's popular? And easy ways to think about that are production level and experience level. Or if they say it's easy, you say it's hard, right? How do you basically say, what are those messages that are resonating? What can I do that's the opposite? And then there's what I call mirror with a twist. That is, you copy the things that are happening in your niche. You see a bunch of influencers, or you see big personal brands, you see people posting on LinkedIn, and they have a really good recurring strategy. What people who don't know what they're doing or think through do is they just copy it exactly. And that might work. You've probably seen, I have lots of copycats. They have decent follower counts, but you know what works way better and doesn't get you 100 comments like, why are you taking this from that person, etc. Is when you do what I call a twist. We have to change radically some of the production and the way it's delivered. So a good example of this is if someone was doing written playbook content and all of a sudden you did that on whiteboards. There's a production twist. There's an aesthetic or niche twist, and be like, cool, like I'm gonna talk about the same stuff. I'm only gonna talk about it, using satanic metaphors, whatever. One I like about this, there's a agency my friend Will has called Cult Holdings, where they position themselves as an agency. They make agency typical content, but it's all presented within this idea of like cult memetics and like cult structures. Very similar content. Let's break down this thing that happened in marketing or this or that, but it's like, but from the perspective of how is it cult related? That's a good example of mirror with a twist. And a third type of position that's really good is just a standout demographic. So for instance, Shelby Sapp, some of you may or may not know her. She does like sales training for women, essentially. You want to be a salesperson, you want to make a lot of money doing sales and get commission sales jobs. This was a whole niche beforehand, but it was mostly bros. And you got athleisure wearing girl showing off the same bro lifestyle, whipping around cars, spending expensive stuff, but appealing purely to other girls as an empowerment method was a very different demographic. It's just another one I really like to look at. Like, how would you have a completely different angle on that because of your gender, location? I'm gonna do the same thing, but I'm doing it in Serbia. There's racial components that can work for this. There's lifestyle components that can work for this. Just some examples on ways to position to make your personal brand unique. Again, you don't have to care about that as much until you're trying to actually scale it up. And if you want to get better, you are making this content, you want to get better at it, you need a feedback loop. You make posts, you analyze them, you make variations based on your analysis, and you make more of the stuff that works. It's pretty simple. So what I mean by a variation, so say you're making posts about news that's happening in your niche or about a single concept. You can make a variant. You can say, I'm not going to post the news. I'm going to post the playbook of the news. This thing happened, but here's the 4 ways you could do it yourself. You could reposition that news to be able to tell your story within it, being like, hey, I relate to this because I had X or Y that happened to me. You could do a versus. You could take this piece of news and compare it to another piece of news. Those are ways you basically create a variant on one traditional thing. And this is a good reminder point. You're always trying to get more views, but viral just doesn't matter. Viral doesn't equal money or equal value. It's about view quality for you. It's about, are you getting those 1,000 people that are watching that will help you in whatever you're trying to achieve with that personal brand? I cannot like hammer that in enough, that there are so many people out there that are achieving their goals with like a couple thousand followers, and that is something to aspire to. Now, so a couple notes on you. If you want to go through this journey, you want to make content on the internet, how to make you stand out. And if you're beautiful, amazing, you're going to have this easy. But if you're not, it doesn't matter. If you look unique or memorable in any way, whether that is a styling choice, you just have an oddball facial structure or body type, whatever, that is a good thing. Do not be afraid to get on camera. Be memorable matters more than being perfect. If you are that, you just need to care. Every single person on this needs to care about how they come across, how they speak, giving a shit about the presentation. Do I look good? Do I look happy? Am I wearing something I'm proud of that people would respect? And this just, I basically look at it like, if you had to go into the office for a job and the boss was there, would you be proud of how you look? And for creative industries, like, I mean, a wide variety of things. Same thing if you were to show up to a date, is an equally good qualifier. Your hair, your smile, your general presentation, no matter what you look like, just give a shit, goes so far in personal branding. And with that, giving a shit comes genuine positivity is the other thing. Do you want to help people? Does it feel like you're helping people? Because if you are negative all the time, at some point people are going to hate watching you and have some disgust watching you, and you're going to attract the wrong element. And the more positivity you have and the more genuineness you have, the more value you give, the better you're going to feel about it when you make it, and the better it's all going to go. So with that said, let's talk about tackling what happens if you're not getting any views in your content and you want to get more for a personal brand. So if you're stuck in the 0 to 500 range, this happens to most people. You can get a free 500 views on Instagram and TikTok, at least 50, 100. You can't break that out. Your number one question you need to focus on is, why would anyone care? Why would anyone watch you? Reframe it to them. Are you giving them entertainment? Are you giving them value? What is my presentation like? Does it look good enough? And am I stopping them? That's the core. It's just the fucking basics. And you can easily begin to crack out of that range. Now, getting above 1,000 comes down to actually thinking through the structures of that content. Is the idea good? Is the hook good? Is it technically well done? Are you just following the formulas that millions of people have basically followed prior to you? That's the kind of stuff we teach in Cut 30, some stuff you can hit in that 3-day challenge. There's a lot of videos on the internet. You can go and just get into the basics of that. And then 10 to 50K is just looking at your outliers and repeating it. You will notice I have a signature series called Product versus Brand. I do Product versus Brand once a week max. 3 a month is kind of the right cadence, because I do not want it to go away. I don't want it to be oversaturated. If I made these 3 times a week, it would be dead. And you can watch creators do this and overdo their series and it goes away. And getting above that, getting 100K every post, that's systems, that's scale, that's a team. It's people thinking through the content. How do I make this good every time? What is my planning like? What is my filming like? That is more of a process thing than anything else. It has to be built into your life, has to have enough new ideas and variants. You have to be living it. And I want to highlight, you begin to get into this, like the pro version of personal brand. Don't oversaturate when you're increasing volume. Like I mentioned with my series, like don't beat the stuff you have to absolute death. You'll see all these folks are like, hey, you should get one content type and just like scale that, work highly on on that. You have to get multiple. That's why that pillar system is so important. Having like 4 things you alternate in and out as you really scale a personal brand is because if you are starting to make content closer to every day, you need to have new stuff in testing, even if it's not working, because what you're doing is not going to work forever. It's going to fall off, and you have the ability to push in new stuff and iterate and move on. And I would highly suggest doing that versus always beating the same thing to death, even if it gets less views. And then this idea of remixing ideas by format is super when you're beginning to scale your personal brand. You're doing 1 or 2 things right. You make green screen videos, you make yaps, you're doing carousels. Those same ideas work just as well in another format that different people consume. So not everyone watches video content of people talking. Not everyone reads carousels or longer form text or whatever it is. But the content ideas are likely the same. If I have a banger video, you'll watch. I remake those videos as carousels all the time. They reach a different audience. People that read carousels, intrinsically different than a lot of people that watch videos. There's some overlap, yes, but not that much. You have a lot living in your existing content by just putting it into other formats. It's a great way to scale personal brand to reach more people. And if you want to get better at attracting initial attention, it's really about understanding context and attention hacking. It basically involves making your topics more interesting by leveraging things people are already interested in. Pop culture. When everyone's talking about Cracker Barrel, it's really easy to make a video talking about Cracker Barrel attached to whatever you're doing. Store, retail design, rebranding. A lot of ways to attach to this thing that's happening people care about if you do it fast. What are the things that are appealing to your demographic? That's an awesome opportunity for you to make something that's more resonant for your niche. And there's also this idea of tribal affinity. What do people really care about? What are those brands that aren't recognized, right? Everyone talks about like Arc'teryx in the outdoor industry, right? They don't talk as much about QU or Sitka. But if you talk about those as a signaler to these tribal people, you call one of those bad, you'll bring a whole bunch of people out in the negative way. What are tribal signalers you can give that make people understand that you understand it, right? Like there's like things that only certain people will recognize that are good to help you get to your niche. Personal brand goes beyond just talking about a niche, beyond making content. It's about building affinity. People have to want to like you. And with that comes personality. Personality breaks into a few key things, right? Like that can be a chill personality, a fun personality, an outgoing personality, an alpha personality. There's a lot of ways to show that, but it's actually bringing that through what you really like. And then they're showing your life. When people find out I'm a dad, they have a lot of questions. I don't talk about it much, but it adds another aspect to the things that I know about. And then there's the idea of community engagement. If you're just replying to everybody, actually answering comments, making reply videos, making anecdotes, talking to people, going live, then you can basically curate the people you already have by actually showing that you care enough to give them your time and attention. Now we're going to go into the advanced section of this video, which is going big. You start to have a pretty good creator journey, pretty solid personal brand. You want to make real money. So if you're going good in your personal brand, you want to take it to the next level. The first thing is a marquee media property. You'll notice a lot of these people will have a marquee newsletter or a podcast or an agency that they make content if they're selling an agency service, or a program to make content with. So what do I mean by this? So look at so Maggie Sellers is a great example. She has a podcast called Hot Smart Rich, a concept that she repeated in a lot of her content, turned it into a podcast. It is probably more well known than Maggie Sellers at this point. I wouldn't recommend doing this until you have an established personal brand you're happy with, but that is a good next step. Establish that, brand it. I have my Hyper newsletter, and I made that specifically so it wouldn't be Oren's newsletter, and I partner with someone on it. We do like reports, and it's like a separate thing in business. It's less of a marquee than theirs. It's more of like a side thing, but you can decide how you want to approach it. Next is developing like mini series and recurring topics from your pillars that people know you for. If people know you for a thing of content, the way people will know me for product versus brand, whether they like that or not, they know you for something. Winner series continue over time. You want to have a signature thing that you're known for, that you're comfortable with, that's helpful and helps you on that journey. But getting that marquee property, getting those signature series, and then going wide, taking these things across as many networks as you can. If you're making content, pushing it across as many places, making sure you're getting max value from it. You made that video once, it's also on YouTube Shorts, and it's on LinkedIn, and you can post on Substack, and you do carousels on YouTube Community. You're already making these things. The 5 minutes to put it more places is more invaluable than whatever else you're spending that time on. Over into making money. The first step to make money for 90% of creators is put your contact info in your bio. The second one is to get an email list. I cannot speak to the power of the email list enough. If you want to leverage the social media component of it and you're not trying to sell courses and stuff like that, Substack will grow you the fastest. If not, Beehive and ConvertKit are both excellent if you're not trying to leverage the social component. ConvertKit is great for low cost. Beehive is great if you ever did want to pay to grow, or you want to monetize your email newsletter through their like placements and stuff and get quick small money. Yeah, I really want $100, $400 type stuff. Doesn't matter. Don't overthink it. Pick any of those just based on that description and run with it. And learn to set up landing pages. They're super simple. Why I like ConvertKit the most of these is you can really simply just create a landing page, put a title and a subtitle, and someone can sign up for your list and get a download. You can set those up in like 15 minutes. And that's what you want to push people to. Summaries of all the things that you do, or just, hey, my thoughts this week on whatever happened, or my report from blank or Y, or this 4-step whatever. Drive people to those. You can use ManyChat to do that. You can use Stan to do that. There are software that actually allow you to do the comment to get to it, or you can just tell people to go to the bio. Comment's more effective. Bio is less intrusive. They both work. But that concept of lead magnets, landing pages, driving people to email gives you this retained audience. It's going to help you forever. Even if you send an email out once a quarter, every time you need to tap in. The point of your personal brand is you being able to tap in when you want to. You can go hit that list that's saying I want to sell something, or I just started something, or I'm looking for a new opportunity. And now let's talk about sales and making money. So the first thing I want to know is why they watch, is why they buy. It's why you see people that are very humorous content primarily, or content that's mainly based on them being hot, don't actually sell that much stuff. Unless it is being like, this can also make you hot, or this will also make you funny, or make you laugh, right? It attaches directly to it. But if they watch you for marketing tips, you are selling marketing tips. Brands that want to give marketing tips will approach you, right? So think about that. It's a good mentality to think about when you monetize. But how do you monetize? First is services. And you show your service, let people know it exists, and have ideas. If I was doing X with my agency, here's how I would do it, that kind of thing. Presenting those out there from the perspective of this and making it super apparent the thing you do, that the service is something you offer, is the easiest thing to sell. Level 1, selling your time and services doing something as a function of your personal brand. Level 2 is low ticket teaching. I was just talking this through with a friend of mine who is a photography creator, who's really expert at lighting, who makes popular lighting content. And it's like, yeah, make the $50 how to use 2 lights to improve your home photography setup. As a micro moment that people will pay money for that can't come through in a 60-second video, but you could give them a bunch of tips inside a thing. You could sell something low ticket. And the best thing about low ticket is then you can have a high ticket done for you. Hey, and for $1,000, I'll get on Zoom with you and we'll all set up the lighting together until it's perfect. And C, you have brand deals. You have a personal brand, you're getting a lot of views and you're in a specific niche, you're gonna get approached for brands, especially if, like I mentioned before, your contact is in your bio. But to make that work, you need to show value to them. They need to be able to picture themselves in your content. They wanna see you doing it for other brands. Might mean you have to do some free stuff or some spec stuff. But talk about what you use, the tools you use, the things you do in your job, why you like it. And it goes for anything from your makeup, fitness equipment, marketing software. If they see themselves in that content, that works. And then you make partnerships easy, reply to stuff, be easy to work with, and then do deals and we'll promote it. Actively look for people at the beginning, especially we'll whitelist them, we'll run ads. People see your ad, other companies will be like, let's use that person. It's not the best source of income in the world. I'd never want to live off of it, but it's an awesome plus side when it comes that almost every person with a personal brand of a certain size can take advantage of. And then D, the hard way, is products. But if you establish expertise in any niche as part of your personal brand, it's so much easier to launch a product in that niche later. And I encourage people, especially if you're like, hey, I'm going to launch a drink beverage and I don't know anything about drinks, make content about drinks for 2 years online, or the lifestyle you're approaching, Ayurvedic medicine, whatever it is. You're going to then have a following. They'll make it way easier. You follow your drink and you're probably going to know way more about what the people that are buying your product actually want. So I'm going to end off with a couple really amazing personal brand content concepts you should consider. And then we're going to talk through the timing of personal brand, the most important probably concept in this whole thing. Let's hit it. So the first concept is what I call the free work. This guy is crushing it with these right now. He basically makes merchandise for billion-dollar companies. There's a dystopian thing there we're not going to get into, but he makes really good designs for these people, presents them aggressively and interestingly, does it relevant, and brands are commenting, asking for more, and he's getting work from that. If you do free work online and it's good, people are going to come to you for it. And the second one is the niche playbook. So a good example is the 3 chest exercises for men over 50. Take a thing that already exists and niche it into one specialty. We had a woman, Bella, who was a fitness trainer in Cup 30 recently, who was just doing like menopausal women over 50, workouts for women over 50. Excellent niche. TAM is right there. And you can kind of look at it like construction companies in the Midwest, whatever it is. Make something specifically for a qualified audience. And there's the idea content. This is Carolyn. She's also in Cup 30. She's doing a great job just being like, hey, don't overthink your product. And she makes all these little videos being like, you're overthinking it. Touchland just did this for this, or Poppy just did this for this. Like, this is why concepts resonate, often very simple. And she shows this again and again. And then would and wouldn't expertise is another awesome one. I know this. Here's what I would and wouldn't do inside this niche. So 10 things I would buy at Trader Joe's as a food scientist. And if you don't know where to go, or you're junior, curation is great. 2, I'll call out Grad Girl Marketing. I think the name of that account is because she started it in college. She has an amazing account for covering what's happening in beauty and tangential spaces. And just kind of like slightly female-leaning marketing overall. Any kind of brand makes carousels about them, makes some videos about them, and just sharing all the stuff that happened is an invaluable resource. Even though she hasn't quite like layered over her expertise as much yet, that's fine. It's where she's at in her career. When she chooses to do that, it's going to be a rocket ship for her. My friend Nate Rosen, same thing. He's one called Express Checkout in CPG. It is better CPG news than I could ever possibly research myself. I go to him for that. You're saving someone time, you're doing them a service. Just a few formulas I think are great for people to consider when you're developing your personal brand. And last, let's talk about time. Time is a super crucial aspect here. Everyone thinks about timing for their personal brand wrong. This is the framework you should really think about it in. 30 days. The first 30 days, you complete 30 days of, I did my 2 videos a a week. I post it on LinkedIn every day, whatever it is. You now in your head go, I can do this. In 100 days, you actually do it. That's when your brain, it's just kind of built into your routine. You've done it for 100 days, you're probably not going to stop. Consistency matters more than perfection here. 365 days, 1 year in, that's when I would expect to make money. I would not expect to make $1 until you're 365 days in. This is delayed gratification. If you get money before that, amazing. 2 years in, now you know enough to make a plan. Too many people are like month 3 trying to figure out X and Y. You don't know enough until you've done it for a year. Now you start to make some money. Now you can make a plan. Look at this under a long time horizon. This is your whole life. Your personal brand is you for your entire life. Year 3 is where I'm at. Stay on the plan. You made a plan in year 2. Are you still staying on the plan? Is it going as expected? Are you following through? And if you do 5 years, this is what I have now mentors talking to me about, you can do anything. If you have stayed 5 years in promoting yourself consistently, telling your story, whether you're getting light views, whether you're getting heavy, whether it's really scaled up, it is now solidified. You can take that wherever you want. It will help you get whatever jobs you want. You can use it to monetize. It exists and it is a superpower. And if you want to say, when you're at 28, anything is possible, then have consistently done the personal brand from there. There is no such thing as too late or too old. There's only, I am not going to put in that same amount of time that the 23-year-old has to put in to get the results. Anyway, this is the art of the personal brand. I will link some other content here. I'm talking for a long time, so I don't even remember where I'm going to link. If you have any questions, you want to workshop your trajectory, whatever it is, I will try to respond to as many comments as I can about that on there. And especially let me know if I do a follow-up to this, what little gaps you'd like pieced in. I appreciate y'all watching so much, and I hope that you do this, hit that 30 days, 100 days, and never stop, because it will truly make a difference in what is possible for you. Let's go.